My wife, Rachel, and I shared a hometown with a population of around 30,000. Our bond began at an early age, around 6 or 7. By the age of 16, we became a couple. At 18, we moved to a city a few hours away for work, and by 20, we were married, proud homeowners. Life took a tragic turn at 22 when we learned she was pregnant with a boy, only to face a devastating accident. Just 5 weeks before her scheduled maternity leave, a shelving unit collapsed, claiming her and our unborn child's lives. The accident also left 2 colleagues injured, one paralyzed and the other losing a leg due to amputation. The company's cost-cutting decision to use unsafe shelving, instead of replacing it, became a cruel twist of fate. I've never fully forgiven the executives responsible for this decision, as it abruptly ended the life of my beloved wife and unborn child. Soon after, I faced the company's so-called compensation, which I deemed blood money. They aimed to settle out of court, but I sought justice. To clarify, this is the backstory, not the revenge. The case, gaining significant media attention and involving politicians, concluded in court after about 3 years. The settlement, nearly 10 times their initial offer, came with numerous fines for workplace safety violations, executive terminations, and some even faced jail time. Perhaps a story for another time when I'm ready to share more. During this period, I continued my telecommunications job while my mother moved in to support me through the challenging times. Gratefully, she played a crucial role in keeping me together. Amidst these circumstances, I received a job promotion that involved extensive statewide travel. I requested a home office in my hometown's branch, aiming to manage businesses there as well. After a few months, we established a routine: 1 to 2 weeks in the city office, 1 week in my hometown, and another 1 to 2 weeks traveling across the state. After a year, I decided to purchase a house in my hometown to avoid frequent stays at my parents' place and have more flexibility. This detail becomes significant later in the story. Fast forward about 4 years from this point, and our tale begins. After returning from a trip on a Friday, I was at my office when Harry, the managing director of the branch, walked in. We had a close friendship, having grown up together, although we attended different schools. He inquired about how things were going and invited me to a house party he was hosting that evening. Despite the short notice, I agreed, feeling like a few drinks with friends were well-deserved. At the party, Harry introduced me to Catherine, a new hire at the branch where my hometown's office was located. Being new in town, she was getting acquainted with everyone. Surprisingly, we hit it off instantly. As cliché as it may sound, meeting Catherine felt like Rachel was right in front of me once again. Skipping many details, after dating for 2 years, Catherine and I took a significant step forward and she moved into my hometown house. Things were smooth, with positive interactions between Catherine, my parents, and Rachel's parents approving of our relationship. Nearly a year into living together, signs of change emerged. Skype sessions abruptly ended. Neighbors reported a familiar car similar to Harry's, parked near my house whenever I was away, and I found clothes in my wardrobe that weren't mine. Despite suspicions of cheating, Catherine insisted nothing was amiss, attributing Harry's visits to business discussions. I brushed off my paranoia but couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Nearly 6 months later, I discovered her deception. After concluding a significant contract negotiation early, I opted for a surprise visit home. Driving into my hometown, I took the alley behind my house to enter without notice, contemplating whether the mystery car would be there. Certainly, as I approached my house, I noticed Harry's car blocking the back entrance gate. Initially, I questioned if it was just a neighbor's oversight, but it turned out to be Harry's. The high hedge line, installed for privacy, prevented me from recognizing my own home immediately. Pulling up behind his car, I found it odd that he was still there, contrary to Catherine's claim that he left by now. As I neared the back of the house, my stomach dropped at the sight of Catherine and Harry engaged intimately in my kitchen. Time seemed to freeze, and I was paralyzed by the surreal scene. My friend and girlfriend were having sex on my kitchen bench. Confused and defeated, I left without them noticing me. In my car, I sat in overwhelming sadness, which quickly transformed into anger reminiscent of the fury I felt toward those responsible for Rachel's death. Although I'm a pacifist against violence, I knew I wanted to punish and disrupt their lives. Returning my car up the alley, I positioned it to have a view of Harry's car and walked back to the gate, calling Catherine's phone. They continued their activities as it rang. When my name appeared on the caller ID, they both did a double take. She hesitated but let it ring out. I called again, and this time she answered. As she responded, I hung up and returned to my car. Moments later, she called me back, expressing shock and feigning happiness about my imminent return. I assured her I was nearly home, explaining that I didn't want to startle her by walking in unexpectedly. The call ended abruptly after she mentioned getting changed, and I bid farewell before hanging up. Shortly after, Harry raced through the gate, half naked, and sped away in his car. A small smile crept across my face, aware of the fear both of them must be experiencing. After waiting a bit, I turned my car into the same spot Harry occupied moments ago. The night proceeded uneventfully, and it wasn't until she was asleep that I slipped into my office down the hall. Sleep eluded me. Instead, I focused on planning for revenge. While my mother always advocated for pacifism and letting cosmic karma unfold, this time, I felt compelled to lend karma a hand. I aimed to punish them separately but ensure the destruction of both. Aware of Harry's private drug habit, I discreetly reached out to some less savory contacts, acquiring enough samples for my plan. A month later, during a barbecue night with friends, including Harry, I ensured he got thoroughly intoxicated. Advising him to stay the night and sleep off the effects, I set the stage for the next phase of my revenge. In the early hours of that morning, I strategically placed the drugs and an assortment of my personal belongings around Harry's car, with the largest stash concealed in his tire well. Confident he wouldn't discover them over the next few months as the rest of my plan unfolded, I locked the car and retired to sleep. After driving him home due to his intoxicated state, I discreetly planted more drugs and personal items inside his house. A few days later, I orchestrated a break-in by smashing my back door's pane into the kitchen and leaving it open before returning to the city for a flight. Upon landing, my phone buzzed with several messages. My mother, clearly panicked, informed me about the broken door and the police involvement. Catherine was in tears, and a message from the local police requested me to call. Returning the calls, I explained my business trip to the police, promising to meet with them the following week. While away, I arranged for Catherine to stay with my parents until my return and asked my father to coordinate with a local security company for the installation of cameras and an alarm system, pending police approval to avoid compromising the crime scene. Upon my return, I engaged in the expected routine of shock and disbelief, thoroughly inspecting every corner, discovering the missing items, filing a police report, and having the security company representative guide Catherine and me through the camera and alarm system functionalities. Then came the anticipated question about scenarios where we wouldn't want business activities recorded. She posed it with a hint of shyness, but I discerned her true motive. The security expert assured us that it was a common query and demonstrated on the home computer how to disable recording for specific cameras if we wished to maintain privacy. While escorting him out, I inquired if it was possible to receive notifications when cameras were turned off, adding an extra layer of security. He willingly returned, guiding me through the setup for email notifications before departing. Fantastic. Now, all I had to do was wait. The subsequent week brought an unexpected job offer, a promotion to run my team in the city, reducing travel and necessitating the presence of multiple representatives in surrounding towns, including my hometown. I accepted, initiating a 6-week transfer process. More than sufficient time to compile the evidence I needed. Upon returning to my hometown, I set the rest of my plan in motion. I approached Harry, requesting approval for 1 week of vacation for Catherine in 2 weeks' time. I wanted to send her and a couple of friends on a retreat before making a life-changing decision once again. His enthusiastic response, embracing me and congratulating me on taking the leap, was met with a tight hug in return, albeit not in the way he might have imagined. He blocked out the requested week, and I urged him to keep it a surprise, even though I knew word would spread rapidly through the office, aligning with my plan. That evening, I excitedly informed Catherine about the surprise spa resort getaway for her and 2 friends, an all-expenses-paid trip for a week. Her ecstatic reaction mirrored that of a child in a candy store. I then mentioned that I had work commitments in the city the following week, preparing for a crucial client meeting, and unfortunately, I wouldn't be home until the Monday after her departure. While she seemed disappointed, I assured her it would be worth the wait upon her return. What I omitted was my decision to take a 2-week vacation on the other side of the country, mentally preparing for the impending storm upon her return and relishing the first taste of freedom. 2 weeks later, on a Sunday, I flew back and began driving home. A quick pass by my house confirmed Harry's presence, his car parked there. Similar to the initial night I caught them, I parked at a safe distance and checked the cameras. As anticipated, they were asleep in my bed. No surprise, considering I had recorded their actions consistently over the 2 weeks of my absence. I made my first call to the police, blocking my caller ID, claiming to be a concerned neighbor. I reported someone lingering in their car in the alley behind my house, occasionally passing items through windows to passing cars and looking into my yard. I expressed worry about possible drug dealing or a potential break-in. Providing Harry's license plate and description, I was assured that the police would arrive shortly. I thanked them and ended the call. I then called Catherine, claiming I was about 10 minutes from home, and expressed a desperate desire to surprise her before her flight the next day. Reviewing the footage now, I chuckle at the commotion that somehow escaped my notice. In mere seconds, Harry was half dressed and bolting out the back door to his car. It was a scene I couldn't have scripted more perfectly. As Harry sped away, one of the police cars turned the corner behind me, spotted Harry's hasty departure, and gave chase. After pulling in, greeting a thrilled Catherine, and engaging in all the couple rituals, she fell asleep again. Meanwhile, sleep eluded me entirely. The next day, after she and her friends departed, I had to bide my time before executing the next phase of my plan. I called my friend, a removalist, apologized for the short notice, and scheduled my place to be packed and moved on Friday. I specified that certain boxes needed to be taken to a storage facility, to which he agreed. Then, I started packing Catherine's belongings. Later that day, the police called me to identify property they had apprehended from a suspect matching the description of the stolen items I had reported. Grinning to myself, pleased that my plan for Harry was coming to fruition, I informed them I would be there shortly to collect it. Upon arrival, some items were still unaccounted for, presumably still in his house awaiting search. By this point, the town was abuzz with news. Secrets in my hometown rarely stayed concealed for long. Harry faced disgrace and was promptly fired for drug possession and possession of stolen property. Both our employers issued formal apologies on behalf of the company during the week. That evening, I visited my parents and Rachel's parents, sharing the news of my promotion and relocation to the city while omitting certain details about Catherine. They were initially upset about being kept in the dark, but appreciated my mature handling of the situation, although they disagreed with the decision to ghost Catherine. After some shared drinks, laughter, and tears, I headed home. On Friday, after a week of organizing various tasks for my hometown's office, including cleaners for the upcoming week, listing my house for rent, and more, I packed essentials into my car. I visited Becky, one of Rachel's closest friends, who had been instrumental in helping me organize everything swiftly. Handing her a large manila folder containing evidence of Catherine's infidelity, along with a letter and legal documents from my attorney instructing no contact, I expressed my gratitude before leaving and driving back to the city. Come Sunday, I woke up to a flurry of missed calls, voicemails, and texts. Catherine had returned early, discovering an empty house with a "for rent" sign. Panicking, she sought refuge at my parents', but they turned her away. Eventually, she was contacted by Becky, who mentioned a package for her. The enraged messages and accusations started pouring in, with Catherine blaming me for setting up Harry and accusing me of deceit. Worried she might appear at my doorstep, I braced for the worst, but nothing transpired. 5 weeks after departing and securing a promotion, I present this narrative to you, dear reader. Though it's extensive, it underwent several revisions to condense it from my initial 14 pages, twice the length of this account. I believe that most of what I've conveyed holds significance for the story. Friend, how do you like this story? Write about it in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on the channel. Love you.